Hey, this video is going to give you everything you need to know about building a classroom library for your Spanish free reading program. First, let's talk about how you actually get books into your classroom library. I'm making this video during COVID. My classroom library is now in my basement, but I think it works out well because you can actually see a little bit of what I have. My school has given me some money for books, but if you're serious about planning a classroom library, chances are you're going to have to do most of the acquisition of the books yourself. 90% of the books that I have here are books that I purchased myself or I acquired myself. They weren't given to me from the school. So the first way is to get grants. And I'm sure many of you are familiar with grant writing and trying to get money for your classrooms for other things. Of course, there are websites like Donors Choose, where you could set up a fund and friends and family could donate to your classroom library. You can also write to organizations that are intercultural or international, like Rotary Clubs or Return Peace Corps volunteers, because these organizations would be more likely to support books that are in Spanish or in another language. And I will try to list some of those that might be relevant down below. You should also work with your school librarian to see if your school library can get more books that you don't have to pay for in Spanish and in other languages. This is especially important if you have classes for heritage speakers or immersion classes, as if students are going to be reading for pleasure in English and going to the library, they should also have the option to do so in Spanish. Now, the only negative about that is that the books are not actually in your classroom, so students will have to go to the library to get them. But at the beginning of each year or the beginning of the quarter, I usually take all the students to the library, so they're first of all aware that the library actually has books in Spanish, and then so they can check out a book that they like. And it gives them a few more options, and like I said, I think it's really important that they actually know where the Spanish section is in the library. Next, you can participate in the Kellogg's Feeding Reading Program. This is something that I've done for the last 4 or 5 years, and I think I've probably gotten 40 or 50 books this way, and they've been completely free. So the program is sponsored by Kellogg's, and you will see specially marked packages in the grocery store like this one. So it says 1 box equals 1 free book, and then there's some more information on the back. Kellogg's products are very popular, so they're probably things you're buying anyway, like Frosted Flakes, Eggo waffles, I think a lot of different types of cookies and crackers also. You just take your receipt after you have bought it and you go and upload it to the Kellogg site. It'll be on the box. And then you get to choose a book. And there are usually, I would say it depends on the year, but probably 30 to 40 book choices. And there are always some that are in Spanish. Sometimes they are better than others. And they're all different reading levels, but I was able to actually get enough copies of Esperanza Renace and I think Enrique's Journey also to be able to do reading groups with my students. So that was a great way to get more books into my classroom library. And even if they're little kid books, I still think it's great to have more books like that, and I'll talk about that later. But the program is completely free. Like I said, they don't even charge shipping. You can order 1 book at a time. There is a limit of 10 books per person, but if you want to get your family members involved, you could get really an unlimited amount of books. The program generally starts in the early summer. Sometimes I've seen stuff as early as like June or July in grocery stores, and I think it goes until about November, December. So there's a long period of time to be able to collect these. You could talk to students' families and get them all involved in getting free books for your classroom library. Next, I like to pick up books when I travel. And this is not necessarily traveling to Spanish-speaking countries, really to any country that has a large bookstore or a large international population. Because I like to go to those bookstores. I'm kind of a book nerd as it is. But I like to go to those bookstores and look to see what books they have in Spanish because they're usually quite different than the books that I can get from, say, Amazon here in the States. In fact, I even got a couple good ones when I was in Norway, of all places. When I was in Mexico, I was actually a little disappointed. A couple years ago, when I went to Mexico, I made sure to spend some time in one of the bookstores and was very excited going down there, thinking I was going to get hundreds of dollars of new books. And I was actually a little bit disappointed because I was thinking they were going to be very cheap, considering the normal exchange rate between the United States and Mexico. But I felt like the prices were pretty much exactly what I would normally pay for books in the United States. They did have some new books, obviously, that I had never seen before that were not popular in the States, and so that was good to get authentic Mexican books. But in terms of price, it was about the same as I would pay here. Next, you can be on the lookout for places where you can win books. This can happen at conferences. For example, I actually won this one when I was at ACTFL last year. And they often have drawings or freebies, giveaways for teachers, and that's a great thing to be on the lookout for. If you participate in book clubs, you can often get the book for free. Look at your district, look at your school, and see what PD offerings might be happening, and see if you can get the book for free. Now, a lot of these would be books in English, but you never know when there may be something happening in Spanish. For example, I did a workshop at the university last year, and we got a few Spanish books for free. I'm currently doing one that's also with the university, but a different department, and we are reading middle school books from different regions of the world. They're in English, but they would make amazing books for a classroom library. I also like to go to used bookstores and see what's available there because the price is obviously much cheaper. You have to dig a little bit, but sometimes there are some gems. So I have a half-price books in town that I like to go to, and obviously there are plenty of other used bookstores, but depending on what people are reading, you may end up with a lot of Spanish books. And there are usually two sections to check out. One would be the kids section. So I got this one, for example, in the kids section at the half-price bookstore, I believe. It's like an atlas in Spanish. Would be really good for beginning readers. And I also got this one about Los Aztecas. Again, these were things that, people probably got as presents and decided they didn't want. But I like them a lot. And then you can also check out the section that is for language learning, because this is where they usually have books about how to learn Spanish for adults, but then they also often have books that would come in like from university literature courses. And so if you're looking to pick up the classics like Crónica de una muerte anunciada, you can definitely get that there, and they're much cheaper. Thanks for watching. If this video was helpful, hit the subscribe button below for more videos to help you grow global citizens.